Ji, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Thank you so much. We have a very powerful panel, right? Very distinguished panelists. Ross, thank you so much for setting the tone. You very aptly identified the benefits of adopting to full IPSAS that the countries have accrued, the critical success factors, and I liked from the legislation to the change management mindset. And of course, you highlighted the trend that we are seeing, and we have to be part of that journey, the global journey that is happening, right? So in the interest of time, I'll quickly move to our panelists. Majid Saab, you have been a great force of change we have seen recently in SOEs, the reporting processes that have improved. So for our audience, if you could enrich our audience, how this great success that we have achieved in a short period of time, the drivers behind it, the challenges you have faced, and building on that, what do you think would it take us if we completely transform our public sector from local government to provincial to this full accrual model? Majid Saab.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that the most important legislation was the SOE Act.
SOE
So
Act,
the Central
yes.
Monitoring Unit is basically a statutory unit. It's under the Act. So that gives us a lot of powers in that way. If we look at the financial reporting of SOEs, and if you look at the SOE reports about 2 years back, they were basically these type of these, like commentaries. They didn't have, like the level of depth. But once we came, we analyzed the sectors, and the first important report was the aggregate annual report on 2023. And also that was an IMF, like structural, like benchmark also. So the good thing is that if you look at the accounting standards and the accrual standards, most of the SOEs in our SOE report, they are doing the financial reporting on the full, like the accrual basis. We have a few SOEs like Pakistan, like railways, which is still on a cash-based system. But the rest of it in the form of, like the guidance we've given, if you look at the finance division's, like website, we have given them the guidance on, like how to transition from the cash-based system to the accrual-based system. At the moment, about 95% of the SOEs, they are on a full accrual system. And the best part is that we have a cabinet committee on SOEs. We have to do the biannual reporting also. So that creates a very good control over the SOEs and also empowers us to, like to deliver these things. So I think that is the most fundamental thing which we've done, and I don't know, like how the law has also, like helped us in that way.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I've just built on that, and based on your experience, where do you see? What kind of challenges you see if we go ahead with this process and implement this change management in the entire public sector?
The biggest thing would be the financial reporting if you look at the overall, like financial reporting of the government, because that is still on a cash-based system. So the good part is that the SOEs, they are, on the accrual-based system, but to transition that and to integrate it into the national accounts, that's a big thing to do. And for that, a lot of training and a lot of things need to be done. It's a massive amount of, like investment that is needed, because like ultimately these SOEs, they have to be integrated with your, like the fiscal accounts, because that will enable you to identify, like the gap. So I think that transition challenge, it still remains. And I think time will tell that, like how we go about it from this time onwards.
Thank you so much, Majid Saab. Now, building on what you said, we also have seen a successful PIFRA project, right? That went from 2008 till 2018 were the active years, if I recall. And we have got a new national accounting model. We have got FABS, SAP, sort of modified cash accounting. So building on that, if you could share, Awais Saab, your experience about this project, and how do you think, moving on to the full accrual is a huge project in itself again. And what are the challenges you see? What are the opportunities you see building on the capacity that has already been built through the PIFRA project? from the Controller General Accounts perspective.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So we are, running a ERP, SAP. So first, some clarification would be needed. The system is accrual based. It is capable of, capturing the transactions, and we do capture it. But the national requirement is that we produce financial reports on cash basis. So it's not that the chart of account or the national accounting framework, which is a heritage of PIFRA, is not accrual based. So the chart of accounts, and we actually produce many reports for the consumption of donor agencies for IMF. The IMF mission came, they run 2 full diagnostic missions on us. It's available on the website. And we do not claim that we passed that particular asset test by distinction, but at least we secured the passing marks. So the whole GFSM-based reporting structure, or the DIPAT reporting structure, I actually emphasize that in Pakistan, the public sector, there are only 2 sources of truth. One is our system, in which you can extract the data, and you would be having a reliable data coming out of the system, and the other one is State Bank of Pakistan. So the ERP which we are producing, the national, as per the constitutional requirement, we are not liable to make, for example, the accrual-based accounts. So the reporting is there, but the system, the provision is there. The chart of account, the accounting framework which we have, has the capacity to move to the accrual accounts. The challenges which we are having is that we currently have not adopted 2 of the factors. First is consumption of the fixed capital, and number 1 is future social benefits. And the other parts is the asset policy. The asset policy, to segregate the assets on the basis of investment, on the basis of PPE, on the basis of heritage, and also different types of the concept of capital revaluation, appreciation, depreciation. These kinds of notions, and because the whole paradigm of the public sector is quite different from the the company structure and all that. So we are faced with multiple challenges on that paradigm. We are working on it, and we have requested a program support from the World Bank, and even the IMF has set a target for the whole government sector to move towards the whole of government account and the accrual basis, and in which the different deliverables are that the whole of government account, including the market or non-market sector, has to adopt a universal ledger. So we have a state-of-the-art system. The system has the technical capabilities, but in terms of the 3 paradigms, man, material, and management, or you talk about the process, organization, technology, and other interface, the policy level intervention is needed. So hopefully in the next few years, with the help of the World Bank program, we would be able to make those policy and transit from that new accounting model, which is now at least 25 years old, to a wholesome approach.
Thank you so much, Awais. I'll come back to you on this as well. I mean, you talked about the policy support and all. But Salim Saab, you being representing Supreme Audit Institution, the oversight role that you have, how do you see the quality of reporting at this stage? And based on your great experience, what do you think are going to be the real challenges if we are moving and going through that transition?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Coming from the Supreme Audit Institution, the oversight role, how do you see the quality of our reporting at this stage? And when we transition from this to the full accrual, what are the challenges in terms of capacity, technology, you as an auditor, and the oversight governance role you have? How do you see that?
Thank you very much for raising this important question, and for making me enabled to have the perspective of Dr. General on this important issue. As per the constitutional provision, the Auditor General of Pakistan is mandated to prescribe accounting principles, methods, and forms for the federal and for the provincial governments with the approval of the President. And under this duty, the Auditor General did it in 2001, when for the first time the then chart of classification, which was very limited, which was capturing a very limited area, was converted into a multifarious, having multifarious entities covering almost all aspects, as were applicable by that time. The new accounting model is not just one manual, it comprises 7 manuals, and it contains detailed principles, policies, procedures. And as per the new accounting model, the basis of accounting was converted from cash-based to modified cash-based, having provision for accounting of the assets and liabilities at the public sector, and as well as for capturing commitments. Unfortunately, fortunately, since we are having a very complex structure at the federal level, we have the ministries, the divisions, the attached department, the subordinate offices, the corporations, the authorities, and they have their own statutes with regard to accounting and other financial management area. That's why it was an issue of its ownership that even by today, against the prescribed modified cash basis of accounting with provision for assets and liability and commitment accounting, we are still having our reports on mere cash-based. And this is because of the fact that since there are multiple layers of stakeholders, it's very, very important to take them on board first. So the first challenge is that, as was prescribed in PFM Act, Section 36, that for all the autonomous entities, the CGA will prescribe the accounting framework with the approval of the Auditor General of Pakistan. The CGA did great effort, and it did prescribe EFSAS accrual-based framework for around 224 such organizations, which are the 224 organizations are just for the federal level. And these organizations are in addition to the 70 state-owned enterprises which have been mentioned in the report by the CNE. And for them, we are required as per the rules of business to send that for approval of that framework, to send a summary through Finance Division. But unfortunately, since Finance Division said that since they have not yet notified those organizations, and the CGA need to take all stakeholders on board, I think that was a very right pointation by Finance Division, that since there are so many stakeholders, they need to be first taken on board, whether their human resources capable of doing this or just prescription will not do. Coming to the second part of your question, conversion to full accrual from the present, cash-based is not just a technical transformation. It will require a huge level of intricate coordination among so many stakeholders. And it will be a very layered process. It will be a phased process. And, but I won't say that it is not something which is not possible. It is possible. We just have to have a very coordinated effort among all the stakeholders. And the lead role is going to be taken by the Auditor General as far as prescription is concerned. But making all the stakeholders convinced for this is a joint responsibility of Finance Division, of Auditor General, of CGA, and so many other stakeholders. So if we do that, it is possible, yes. And as the benefits were pointed out by Ross, we have so many benefits of that. We will be, inshallah, in a position to do that, and in case all the stakeholders come on board and they have a well-coordinated effort in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Salim Saab, and you touched the very important element of stakeholder management, because bringing in change is easy, fortifying change, sustaining change is the real game. So Musaddiq, this brings me to you. I mean, from a development partner perspective, what kind of matrices you guys use in terms of measuring success of these reforms? And what would be your advice or counsel, and what do you think are the parameters for sustainability of those reforms?
So thank you Khalil Saab, for having me, and thank you for the question. So very important discussion indeed. And first of all, but before we delve deeper into the discussion, the realization has to be there. We need to realize the importance of the overall public financial management. And when it comes to measuring or the matrices that needs to be there, so we were discussing this with the government that there needs to be, when it comes to practical steps, there needs to be set up some sort of a dashboard so that a runway is established and an inventory count is done for all the SOEs, that what SOEs are eligible and what is it that's required from those SOEs or those departments. And then a reward or a reprimand system has to be there to link their performances. So, and then it also needs to be visible to all the stakeholders so that everyone is aware that where are we right now and what is it that we aim to achieve. And another important thing is that whatever we bring in, we also need to realize that we need some practical steps that are actually doable. While we may come up with some fancy solutions or some gold standards, which are actually in practice at any part in the globe, but we need to see that whether are we at this stage to actually take that forward and implement it in the given circumstances. So that's one area that I would also comment upon, that we also need to realize that where we stand and where do we actually need to go. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mudassir. So you're talking about the principles that we use in corporates, the KPIs, the dashboards, the KRIs, that framework needs to be brought into the public sector as well, yeah. So Ross, I've already got the chit, right? So you shared the bigger picture, but for the benefit of our audience, if you could share one or two instances of similar environments like Pakistan is, in terms of ecosystem, in terms of governance, in terms of where we are, and some countries from Africa, a couple of countries from Africa you have seen, or Latin America, we feel that we are very similar to them. So what kind of challenges they really faced, and what kind of the benefit, the top 2 or 3 benefits that their government say that they have achieved through this? Some case examples.
Yeah, sure, thank you, and great question, and thanks again for allowing me to share a little bit. So as I mentioned in my presentation, every country's experience is a little bit unique, but there are some elements, and I think we have found when countries work together and kind of partner up, so a country that's already on accrual versus one transitioning or one on cash, you can really benefit from kind of sharing experiences and that. And I think, as I mentioned, with the upward trajectory of countries moving to accrual, I think it's more easy now than ever to find comparators that have similarities and similar challenges to help you managing that. A couple that do come to mind that I think are relatively recent and not the same, but similar in terms of culture context. One that's kind of close in this region that's been a very successful transition project in the last few years is the Saudi Arabian movement from cash to accrual. They did it in I would say, fairly record time. They were well-resourced, so that helped. But in terms of a change management exercise, I think they've probably developed a case study for other countries to follow in terms of developing a good roadmap, thinking about their areas that are particular challenges, and then executing that. And one of the things they did that I think really helped them in that is they developed in their public sector a shared service center for accrual accounting. And it's quite a well-resourced group that's very well trained, but supports other parts of the public sector on their transition to accrual. Another element they undertook in Saudi Arabia I found really interesting is they made it a bit of a competition. So they have yearly awards based on the quality of reports for the different public sector entities, and those public sector entities are actually working very hard to get their accrual accounting reforms in place because they're competing against their other ministries to have the highest quality financial statement. So it's a healthy competition, which is great. Another one that I recently had some engagement with was Rwanda in Africa, and they've really made a lot of progress there in a very quick amount of time, in a very resource efficient manner. So unlike the Saudi Arabian example, they weren't spoiled for resources in their transition to accrual, but they still have been able to take that forward in a very efficient way. And in terms of benefits that you can see, it's not only improved transparency and accountability, but you also see greater trust in institutions and greater investor trust, which can lead to lower borrowing costs. And there's now some academic evidence starting to develop that shows that adoption of accrual accounting as part of a broader PFM reform can actually lower your cost of borrowing and increase your pool of investors when you go to the market. So, real evidence developing to show that it's really a worthwhile endeavor. It may be costly to do in the outset, but the benefits overall, over time, will outweigh the costs.
Absolutely, yeah. Over a period of time, benefit. I really like this concept of shared service center. I mean, this is something for us to explore as well. So, in the interest of time, now one last question from each of the panelists, but I'll request you to be very brief, 30 seconds each. So, Majid, from your experience, SOE, you talked about SOE Act that really helped. In terms of the broader now, we have got a PFM, Public Financial Management Act as well. It doesn't mandate, but it does bring in lots of reforms. What kind of legislative changes or the policy support you think is really important to drive this change based on your experience, the complete change?
No, this is a difficult question because it's beyond accounting and finance. Yeah. It's something else. Well, you see, the most important thing is to have a policy buy-in from the top stakeholders. You can have the best finance professionals working, but if you don't have that buy-in, that tone from the top, it will be very difficult to implement. And as far as your question is concerned, the most important thing is that we are under an IMF program, so that also helps us because we have some structural benchmarks. Yeah. They have to be, like in line, and automatically we have to do those things. So that buy-in, it comes quite fast. So I think that would be the most important thing. The other, we have a lot of challenges. Because it's a very difficult question to answer because it's so broad that if we have that buy-in, like soon as possible, the better it is. But I think it will take time, and a lot of regulation also needs to come. Even the SOE Act itself, it has to be amended, it has to be improved, it has to be evolved. So this is a difficult question, but it is like the fact of the matter, we have to address it. And I think it will take time, but the good thing is that we're moving in the right direction in this aspect.
That's positive, yeah. So Awais, now you talked about a lot of capacity that you have in the system, but very quickly, what do you think still needs to be done in terms of moving the needle? The challenges are also real. I mean, you talked about long-term liabilities, bringing them assets and all. So from an operational perspective, what do you think should be the areas of focus? If you have got the policy buy-in, let's say, and you have to implement, what are the 2-3 things that you think that would move the needle and that would pave the way for it quickly?
We would be needing an integrated financial management information system in which the financial information would capture. So for that, we need fiscal data governance. So because we need right amount of data at the right time and with the right quality. So we see at the system point of view, we need fiscal data governance in which each entity should be compelled to provide us the data. And the second thing is that for the perspective of that, we need, if you're talking about cash-based accounting and then you're moving towards accrual-based accounting. So in that context, the whole asset paradigm, the whole liability paradigm would be changed. So I would say the system has the capacity, but to segregate that into that concept of accrual, in which the debt would have the fair value of the fair value of amortization on the notional or the real time. So in that whole context, because it's not a company statement, it's a kind of a then we have for example SDG, for example IMF regime, different exchange rates of different governments in which the debt liability. So setting those policy right, and then configuration is the easy part. So 2 things: fiscal data governance, and then setting the policy for those 40 standards, and conceptualize on that in the Pakistan milieu. would be a challenge. And obviously, the third part is, if you talk about the capacity in terms of man, material management, or the process, organization, technology. So the whole gap analysis and, the huge intervention, the capital as well as, the intellectual and all that, that will again be, required.
So thank you, Mudassir. Now, Salim Saab, you talked about stakeholder management. I really liked that point. And you also talked about capacity issue. What, in your view, I mean, there could be two approaches. We go all out with 39 standards, or we say we make it phased approach. I mean, the difficult part of the long-term liabilities and asset fair valuation, okay, park them aside, and, you start with quick wins. What do you think should be the best approach for our public sector based on you audit every entity, you know inside out. What should be the right approach? Very quickly.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would refer to the Bloom's taxonomy, like the KSA model. We do have the knowledge, we do have the skills. It's an issue of the attitude. I attached with the project for around 8 years and also remained change management director over there. The most important thing was to bring a change and to make the people realize that the change was for their betterment. Somewhere I read that change management is actually like making the elephants dance. It's so difficult, bringing so many stakeholders at a point to realize that it is in their, it is in their benefit. When we were doing the DCS, direct credit system for the pensioners, I used to go and have interaction with the pensioner associations, with accounting offices, with the bankers, and I came to realize that even those for whose benefit we were, doing that, they were resisting. They didn't know. So once that fear of the unknown was over, when we met and we convinced them, it was only after that we were having that ownership of the whole reform. So I don't think so there is any issue of constitutional or legal provisions. All are there. The spirit is required and the will is required.
So Mudassir, now last from you. I mean, what is your advice towards this journey? Very quickly. How do we bring in that change, the mindset change, It's the skill set, mindset, and tool set. We have got some sort of a tool set. We've got some sort of a skill set. There are gaps that we have to bridge. The more important, as Salim Saab said, is the mindset. What's your advice?
So then, I believe it all drills down to the benefits and being knowledgeable about the benefits that will actually flow in, and be also aware of the consequences. So I would quote a real case scenario here. We as ADB, we have got a lending modality named as results-based lending. In a normal project, what happens is कि जैसे ही आप project करते हैं, तो पहले financing आती है, and then you go by implementing the project over a course of implementation period. But results-based lending is such that the results have to come in first, and then the lending will follow. So it's now directly linked to your economic progression. So the technical user needs to be informed that what benefits would it reap and what is the importance level for this reporting. And until and unless the reporting reaches to the stakeholder, you're not able to take informed decisions. Another example is, so when we talk about project financials or project reporting, currently in Pakistan, it is the standards that we follow are cash basis IPSAs. But when we go to the entity financial statements, those are being accounted for on accrual basis. And when the submissions are made for a project, so we've got these two financial statements. The projects are being reported on cash basis, whereas the entity financial statements, of which the project is a subset, is on accrual basis. So very soon a requirement is going to come in that the standards have to be matched with each other for the purpose of comparability. So only if we are able to inform the users of the benefits and the consequences would we be able to make a change. Thank you.
So very well summarized. I think we need to have the right communication strategy as well. Thank you so much. With this, I think we can conclude, and over to you.